The U.S. president cozies up to Russia and shuns allies this Thursday night. How he may not help protect NATO members, including Canada, as Ukraine's president demands to be part of peace talks with Russia. Trump's new tit-for-tat tariffs.
That's adding some insult to the injury.
As Republicans ramp up his plan to take over Greenland, how worried should Canada be? Frosty reception.
Oh, it's crazy. It's terrible.
The major storms causing headaches for millions of Canadians. Plus, patriotism and pucks.
I think it's a bit of national pride.
How Canada's best hockey players are shining bright at the Four Nations face-off.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Once again, there is lots to get to tonight. The U.S. president is opening a diplomatic door to Russia, while at the same time punishing America's allies and warning NATO members they can't count on America. After signing a memorandum, this time ordering plans for sweeping reciprocal tariffs on allies and rival countries around the world, Trump took shots at Canada again and repeated his line that Canada should become the 51st state.
Canada's been tough on the military because they have a very low military cost. They think we're going to, protect them with our military, which is unfair.
At the same time, the American Defense Secretary told a NATO meeting Europe cannot expect the U.S. to be its constant guarantor and that cutting the number of American troops in Europe could be part of a deal with Russia to end the war in Ukraine.
This administration believes in alliances, deeply believes in alliances. But make no mistake, President Trump will not allow anyone to turn Uncle Sam into Uncle Sucker.
President Trump says he believes, after his phone call with the Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, that Putin wants peace. But there's a feeling Ukraine is being sold out before negotiations even begin. Redmond Shannon begins our coverage tonight.
On the streets of Kyiv, there is a sense that the ground has shifted, with Trump and Putin now planning a summit on Ukraine's fate. It looks like Ukraine has been betrayed, says this woman. President Volodymyr Zelensky called it unpleasant that Donald Trump phoned Russia's president on Wednesday before calling him. We will not be able to accept any agreements without us involved, he said. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Ukraine will be involved one way or another, a sentiment later echoed by Trump.
I mean, they're part of it. We would have Ukraine, we would have Russia, and we'll have other people involved too.
Ukraine's allies are still voicing concern, not only about the US Defense Secretary's assertion Ukraine won't join NATO, but also that Ukraine won't get all of its land back.
Die Trump-Administration hat gegenüber Putin schon jetzt.
Germany's defense minister says Trump has given Putin concessions before negotiations have even started.
You could say that why not leave some uncertainty on the Russian side going into the negotiations and use NATO membership and questions of territory.
Pete Hegseth repeated those statements Thursday, telling European NATO partners Ukraine's future may be in American hands, but its security will be mostly their problem.
Leaders of our European allies should take primary responsibility for defense of the continent.
A Danish intelligence report published this week assessed that Russia will be more likely to invade a NATO country if it sees the US as unwilling or unable to intervene. Volodymyr Zelensky is now heading to Germany for the Munich Security Conference, which starts Friday. While there, he will meet NATO chief Mark Rutte and US Vice President J.D. Vance. Donna?
Redmond Shannon in London, thanks. Now to tariffs. Trump is taking on the world, planning what he calls reciprocal tariffs on all major trading partners. Whatever they charge the U.S., he says the U.S. will charge them. Taria Isri looks at what that could mean for Canada.
Prices go up.
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please.
A warning from the White House to rivals and allies alike.
I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them, no more, no less.
In his second term, Donald Trump has already gone after Canada, Mexico, Denmark, and China. Now he's taking aim at every country he says has taken advantage of the world's richest economy.
The EU's been very nasty. It's just been, they haven't treated us properly.
Trump now appears to be going after sales taxes, like Europe's value-added tax, or VAT.
Well, what they are now is they have a 20% VAT tax, which we're considering to be similar or the same as the tariff.
Canada has the GST, but does not yet charge tariffs on U.S. goods. So it's not clear how Trump's newest actions could affect this country. One thing is certain, his obsession with Canada is not waning.
Canada's been very bad to us on trade, but now Canada's going to have to start paying up.
Canada has imposed a digital services tax on American online tech giants like Facebook and Google, a tax Trump seems to be taking issue with.
That's adding some insult to the injury here, and frankly, I'm not surprised to hear the Americans are looking to come at us and exert some pain.
American trade experts warn his reciprocal tariffs will only backfire.
It will create tension with our trading partners, and especially if your supply chain is across borders or overseas, it's inevitable. Prices are going to go up.
Canada's allies have been largely silent, not condemning Trump's tariff and sovereignty threats against this country. But his pledge to slap tariffs on most of the world may change that. Donna?
All right, Taria, thank you. There is so much coming out of the White House, it's hard to know what to take seriously. One of Trump's quests to take over Greenland still seems to have legs, though Greenland and Denmark have said it is not for sale. There were actual hearings about it in Washington today. As Jackson Proskow found out, lawmakers are less keen to discuss Trump's threat to annex Canada.
The acquisition of Greenland is not about military force. It's about diplomacy and shared interests.
At a little-noticed hearing, Republican senators began laying the groundwork for President Donald Trump's audacious proposal to buy Greenland.
This would be a mutual decision, and it is one worth discussing.
It's a clear sign Trump's territorial ambitions are real.
So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
Which is alarming for Canada, given Trump's nonstop talk of annexation.
I feel they have to become a state.
It's never going to happen.
When Canadian premiers were in Washington this week, the signals from the White House were in fact ominous. The closest the leaders got to Trump was a meeting with White House advisor Sergio Gore, a man who joined Donald Trump Jr. on a fact-finding trip to Greenland. After the premiers raised their concerns about Trump's 51st state comments, the other White House advisor in the room, James Blair, posted on X, "We never agreed that Canada would not be the 51st state." He warned the best way to understand President Trump's position is to take what he says at face value.
President Trump has a unique way of instigating conversations.
What about this 51st state talk? Republican senators, so often wary of angering Trump, simply don't want to talk about it.
Should we be taking this 51st state talk seriously?
I don't know.
You have a quick moment to talk about this 51st state idea from President Trump.
I wouldn't do that in the hallway on an interview like this. No.
Despite the gusto for Greenland, Canada is a far more sensitive subject. As Canadian officials fight against the tariffs and work to preserve sovereignty, Trump's opponents can only offer this advice.
If I was in a Canadian's shoes, I would be making sure that we're doing everything necessary to assert and affirm Canadian interest.
We checked, and as of now, there are no congressional hearings scheduled about Trump's plans for Canada. That may be in part because it's still not clear what exactly the president is after, or if he's truly serious about annexation. Donna?
Jackson in Washington, thank you. One of America's most prominent vaccine skeptics is now in charge of that country's health agencies. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was sworn in this afternoon as health secretary moments after being confirmed by the U.S. Senate. All Republican lawmakers fell into line, except for former Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He had polio as a child and says vaccines have saved millions of lives around the world, and he will not condone the relitigation of proven cures. Kennedy now leads a department that directs more than $3 trillion in healthcare spending. Some high-profile names have resigned from the Kennedy Center in New York City because President Trump fired its longtime president and put himself in charge. Television producer and writer Shonda Rhimes, singer-songwriter Ben Folds, and renowned soprano Renee Fleming are all stepping down from their roles at the Kennedy Center. Yesterday, Trump was elected chairman by a new slate of board members he appointed. The Kennedy Center was established to celebrate and promote performing arts across America. Trump, who says he's never been there, says he took it over because he didn't like what they were showing. From canceled classes to canceled flights and dangerous driving conditions, millions of Canadians are in the grips of the biggest snowstorm of the winter. At Pearson Airport, the snow clearing machines have been busy. At least 26 centimetres of snow was recorded over 24 hours there. That's more than in the entire month of January, and it's the largest snowfall in 3 years. The bulk of the snow has been shifting east throughout the day, and we'll have a report from Montreal in a moment, but we begin with Caryn Lieberman, who is in the thick of it in Toronto.
In Toronto, this was our biggest snowfall of the winter season to date. It happened mostly overnight, and by the morning, more than 20 centimeters of snow had fallen. That meant a big cleanup, and for kids, a big long break.
I woke up and I was like jumping in my bed. I was excited.
Canada's largest public school board and several others across the Greater Toronto area declared today a snow day, tacking an extra day off to the already extended Family Day weekend.
We were gonna have a Valentine's Day party, but I guess we're gonna have that on Tuesday.
All 1,400 pieces of the city's snow clearing equipment were deployed, but drivers faced challenges getting around.
Lots of vehicles stuck in ditches, stuck in snowbanks, on ramps and off ramps were problem areas for many vehicles.
At Pearson Airport, dozens of flights, 15% were canceled and many others delayed.
A day of my vacation's gone.
About 12 hours or so, it's delayed.
We're in Toronto. Snow is not something that's like surprising. According to Twitter, it's staffing challenges. If we could make it to the airport, I don't know where the staff are.
A lot of Gulf moisture went into the system, and that's why it was able to produce so much snow for many communities across the southern Ontario.
There's no letting our guard down just yet because this weekend another winter storm is on deck for Toronto. Little early to predict, but we're looking at another 5 to 10 centimeters of snow likely on both Saturday and on Sunday, so we'll just have to keep those shovels handy.
This is one of those days where waking up, there was a decision to be made. Was there a way to just stay home?
Oh, it's crazy. It's terrible. It's very slippery. Yeah, and I'm afraid to drive.
The snow started in Montreal overnight and kept falling all day long. The city just wrapped up Wednesday, removing the snow from the last, albeit smaller storm. Thursday, it had 1,000 trucks and plows out again.
I'll try not to fall down.
The reviews from experienced critics seem positive.
At least the sidewalks are done very early. That's a good thing.
Outside of airports, where there were delays and some cancellations, this isn't a storm that had a lot of people complaining.
Very happy.
In particular, those who woke up to news their day was wide open. About 1,200 schools in Quebec canceled classes. Now, considering it's already almost mid-February, the fact this is the first major storm of the season may be the reason even parents are taking this in stride.
Yeah, we're making the best out of it. It's fun. It's fun for the kids. It's fun to be outside. It's winter in Quebec, right?
Now, one benefit of so many apparently staying home is space. Something like whatever this is isn't usually welcome in urban areas. That wasn't a problem on this day.
C'est le bonheur total, le paradis.
Complete happiness, he says. It's paradise. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Atlantic Canada is bracing for that same storm to hit. It is set to bring more snow overnight, and in the west, a cold snap isn't letting up over the prairies. Extreme cold warnings are in effect for much of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, where temperatures are dipping down to the -30s. The former head of Alberta Health Services files a $1.7 million lawsuit. Coming up, her accusation against Alberta's government. The former CEO of Alberta Health Services is suing the province for wrongful dismissal. And in her $1.7 million lawsuit, she claims she was fired while investigating evidence of inflated contracts for private clinic surgeries in Alberta. While Premier Danielle Smith is not named in the suit, her health minister and former chief of staff are. Heather Yoriks-West explains.
Terminated just 13 months after being appointed to head Alberta's health system, Athana Metsalopoulos is taking Alberta's health minister to court, alleging she was fired for investigating government health contracts.
This is not just a wrongful dismissal lawsuit. It is very long and detailed about the extent of political interference into Alberta Health Services on behalf of one company.
Alberta Surgical Group is a doctor-driven private clinic in Edmonton that has been delivering publicly funded orthopedic surgeries in Alberta since 2022. In her statement of claim, Metsalopoulos alleges that in 2024 she was repeatedly subject to interference and pressure from various provincial government officials, including the Premier's former chief of staff, to sign off on a contract with the clinic, despite concerns that work from Alberta Surgical Group was significantly more expensive than other private contractors. She also says after being warned of potential threats to her physical safety, a risk assessment was done by Alberta Health Services. It concluded that individuals involved with Alberta Surgical Group would likely apply political pressure to have Metsalopoulos terminated if she threatened their financial interest. The lawsuit goes on to allege Alberta's health minister overpaid for health contracts at private surgical facilities. In a statement, the health minister says many of the allegations made in the lawsuit are false, while others will need to be investigated further as part of the Auditor General's work and the government's internal review. Speaking from Washington before the suit was filed Wednesday, Premier Danielle Smith said the health minister had her full support.
I'm glad that we're going to have the Auditor General take a look at it. If there's wrongdoing, we'd like to get to the bottom of it. And if there isn't, we need to find out why AHS is standing in the way of charter surgical centres.
The health minister says she plans to file a statement of defense in the days ahead. Heather Yoriks-West, Global News, Calgary.
Attack in Munich. Ahead, why German police believe a car that rammed into a crowd was intentional. The fragile Gaza ceasefire appears to be back on track. Hamas now says it will release 3 more Israeli hostages this weekend as originally planned. It had threatened to delay the release, accusing Israel of preventing tents and shelter equipment from being moved into Gaza, along with other violations of the ceasefire. Israel was threatening to renew its assault on Gaza if more hostages were not freed. Police in Munich say at least 28 people have been injured after a car drove into a crowd in what's believed to be an intentional act. It happened this morning near the city centre during a rally linked to a local transport union. Police say counter-terrorism officers have taken over the investigation because there are indications the suspect had an extremist background. The driver has been identified as a 24-year-old Afghan asylum seeker. He has been arrested. Germany's chancellor says the driver must be punished and must leave the country. Japanese car makers Honda, Nissan and Mitsubishi are canceling their plans to merge. Had it gone through, it would have created an auto group worth $60 billion. The companies originally wanted to join forces to fight back against rising competition from Chinese automakers. Nissan CEO says merger talks fell apart because the conversation shifted from joining forces to making Nissan a subsidiary of Honda. The 3 automakers will continue to work together on electric vehicles. Patriotic performance next. Team Canada is off to a winning start at the Four Nations Face-Off. You don't have to be a hockey fan to appreciate what happened on the ice last night in Montreal. For the first time since 2016, Canada's best professional hockey players were on the same team in the Four Nations Face-Off. It was fast, furious, exceptional hockey. And as Eric Sorensen explains, given the moment we are in, it seemed to transcend sport.
Snow was blowing across the country today, a Canadian wake-up call after a night dreaming about the game we love and play.
To see all of these, the best of the best Canadians all coming together on the same team, you can't be anything but patriotic.
A good thing to bring the Canadians together at this time.
Before the puck dropped, there was an emotional outpouring. It's been years since Canada's best have played together, and it comes at a moment when Canadian identity, our very sovereignty, has been battered by an American president. So, with a maple leaf on their jerseys, every player homegrown, we could be forgiven a little unabashed patriotism. And no one demonstrates the beauty of our game like Sidney Crosby. His uncanny vision spotted Nate McKinnon for one goal. His combined strength and skill set up another. And then there's his hockey IQ that created the winner in overtime. In Montreal, they chanted for Crosby like he's one of their own, because he is.
Sidney Crosby, I mean, the roof was coming off. That just shows you how much people care about him and respect him.
Have an ovation like that here was really special and something to always remember.
Crosby, McKinnon, and Brad Marchand led the way. All grew up around Halifax, which gave Haligonians extra reason to puff out their chests.
To have all the Nova Scotia boys scoring the goals and getting the assists last night.
It's just bringing the country together with everything going on.
Hockey is an unthreatening demonstration of who we are, and Crosby's own pride still shines through at 37.
Just grateful for the opportunity to be able to play for Canada, to be able to play for this group, to still be playing. It's not an easy league.
Sid the Kid is getting older and the game's getting harder, but it's worth it when a Canadian pulls on that red maple leaf. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Air Canada is a little bit different. It's this rail car. Homer Simpson having a snooze on a stop in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Not sure CN finds the graffiti as amusing as we do, but there you go. We'd love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Carolyn Jarvis will be at the anchor desk tomorrow, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.